It's Vegas, baby. The NASCAR Series moves to Sin City for the round of 8 in the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, and it's just playoff racing all the way around. We'll be up 500 by midnight. Come down the back road with us and hang out a little bit.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checker flag. That's all this race is.
From the stage.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Backroad. It's In Between Media's NASCAR betting show. Elliot Hicks here with you, and it's always my pleasure to introduce the wonderful Rod Villagomez joining me as my co-host today. Rod, I'm sure things are going well over in Hot Rod's garage, but what's most important to me is that your connection is definitely going to be better than Seth's was last week.
Well, hey, I don't know. The over-under on how many times I drop off is set at 3.5, so we'll see if that's the who wants to take what. I don't know. It's up to you guys on this show.
Hey, first bet of the night. I'm taking the under on that one. But no, I appreciate everyone who bared with our difficulties there last week, and hopefully the bets worked out for you then too. We'll start the program as usual here shortly. Going in the rear view, taking a look back at the races at the Charlotte ROVAL, giving you our reaction, breaking down some standings updates and the news of the week as well. In our Horizon Forecast, we will break down everything there is to know about the Las Vegas Motorspeedway, home of the first race of the round of 8 for the Cup and Xfinity Series. And we will give you our best bets for both of those races in the parking garage props. Shout out to everyone, like I said, who tuned in last week and dealt with us. Shout out to those in the comments. We got the Cleveland kid in here predicting Christopher Bell will win at Vegas and will also win the championship. Not sure where Marcus is, but Christopher Bell, we got another Bell fan in here. We got Nick hopping in the chat right now too, saying what's up, predicting Bell wins the Cup race, Brandon Jones winning the Xfinity race. Some pretty good picks there. We've also heard some good picks and some good bets thrown out in the IBT Racing family. It's our exclusive Discord chat that we've got going on. We've got a chat channel in there where you can talk to all of us, myself, Seth, Rod, Ryan from My Fantasy Race, and all our wonderful peeps in there. We throw out our full weekly betting cards. Lately, I've been throwing mine in a little before the show, so you get a little sneak peek of what I'm going to talk about if you want to take a look at that. Also, entry into our memorabilia giveaways. Seth acknowledged last week we've been a little behind the ball on that, but we've got stuff to throw out there to you. And most importantly, if I haven't already mentioned it, gives you access to our exclusive weekly betting model. Seth does a lot of work with Ryan for My Fantasy Race. They get this put together with all those stats, your total speed rankings, and your average finishing positions, and all those beautiful things. You can get a little preview of that each Friday morning as well. I write up an article, gives you a preview of what goes into that betting model, talks to you about, we look at the top 10 of the betting model, and we also give you a couple extra picks in there. That Racing Family Edition also throws in the IBT Football Family as well, which that's been going pretty well over there. Shout out as well to everyone on the audio version on Apple Podcasts and to those in Western Tennessee 101.5 FM down there. Shout out to those people. And I mean, I don't know if we even want to go through the shame spiel, but it's just been cool with the IBT Racing Family. They're certainly helping out my card, some of those picks in there.
Yeah, and again, it's just a way to talk with each other because I know a lot of times I'm the only one that likes to talk about anything like that out here, and it's very nice to be able to jump in and talk racing with people that actually want to talk racing. So definitely spend some time in there. And yeah, if you're listening on the air, get in, and that's the way to do it if you're not watching on YouTube, which you should be. And by the way, Elliot, are we sure that all of these aren't just Marcus's burner accounts? Because there's a lot of Christopher Bell talk on here.
Maybe so. Bell's a popular pick this week. But lots of others we'll talk about too. Before we start talking Vegas, let's take a look back in the rearview. So the Charlotte ROVAL weekend saw a nice little triple header of action. Trucks, Xfinity, and the Cup Series were all on the track. Started Friday afternoon. A great day for Brent Cruz after some lap 1 chaos, but even though he was involved in that lap 1 chaos, Corey Heim goes from crashed in that wreck to victorious at the end, win number 10 of the year, and advances him to where he rightfully should be, the championship 4.
Yeah, it's no stopping him at this point, right? You have to pencil in, or actually, might as well just put it in chisel it in rock. It's Heim time, because that guy, he's about the most dominant that I think we've seen since, dare I say, Kyle Busch. I mean, honestly, it's a guy that has been really just you throw things at him and he continues to overcome whatever obstacles are thrown his way and win, no matter what the track type is, no matter what the situation is. And he's inevitable at this point. It is Heim time, and we are all just hoping that, we catch a little bit of the action on it.
Yeah, God, I don't know what his outright odds will be when we get to Phoenix in a couple of weeks. Maybe a little minus money action with how dominant he's been this year. But he is locked in. We'll talk about how close the rest of those points are here in a minute. On the Xfinity side, Connor Zilic, the dominant driver of the year over there, naturally takes home the win on a road course, his 10th win of the year as well. JRM swept every one of the road course races this year. They went 7 for 7 there. It was the end of the round of 12 for them. Nick Sanchez, Taylor Gray, Austin Hill, and Harrison Burton eliminated. A couple of those expected. In terms of Austin Hill, when you break down what he lost from that suspension, spinning out Eric Almirola, getting suspended for the Iowa weekend, he lost 21 points, plus 6 additional playoff points that he would have earned from his regular season point standing that he lost out on all of them. He was eliminated by 21 points. Karma hits Austin Hill one more time this year, knocks him out by pretty much exactly the amount that he would have had if not for just one angry moment, a month and a half ago, can really derail your entire season.
Not to mention the number on the side of his car as well, right? So, that's a lot of 21s in there, and I know he's not going to be putting that on a lottery ticket anytime soon. But, hey, listen, actions have consequences. I mean, as much as we don't see that anymore in this world, actions have consequences, and Austin Hill learned that, and maybe, just maybe, he takes that into the future and, and maybe thinks better of it next time. But this time you got to deal with what the bed that you made. You got to lie in it.
All is fair in love and NASCAR, right? Average finish this year, final road course Xfinity Series average finish. Connor Zilic, of course, leads the way. 1.71 average finish on the road courses. Absolutely dominant year there. Austin Hill, who we were just talking about, second with an 8.57. Sammy Smith, a 9.29. He did well to advance to a late pick call there. He took advantage of the late caution, ends up advancing through. Austin Green, average finish of 10th this year, including a second place run at the Roval. Wish I would have had him for the top 5 even, but was able to work out the top 10. Christian Eckes, 5th in that stat at 11.43. So you've got some really good road course racers there. In the lower series, of course, Austin Green at plus 125 and Connor Mosack minus 110 for the top 10s. I would have had him if I'd gone with the top 5. Mosack ends up 5th. The Mosack bet did not work out in the truck series, but my Heim Zilic bet, Heim over Zilic at plus 105, that worked out too. Normally it's Heim insurance. This time it is Zilic insurance. And in the Cup Series, thankfully, a fairly decent weekend as well. No surprise that Shane Van Gisbergen claimed his 5th road course win with another 15-plus second victory, his 3rd of the year in that metric. Logano holds on to advance. A tight battle between Joey Logano and Ross Chastain all day. Chastain, Reddick, Wallace, and Cindric all eliminated. Some other fallout from that race. Riley Herbst was DQ'd for failing post-race weights, and I feel like NASCAR just did that to trigger Alex Bowman fans one more time after last year. And Kyle Larson was the main surprise for me in this race. Scored as many points at the Roval, 49, as he did on the other 5 road courses combined. Seth and I were on a pretty heavy Larson fade last week, but dare I say Kyle Larson is back.
You dare say, because there are a lot of folks that are still on the Captain Shook train that he is definitely not the same since Indianapolis. And I tend to agree with you, Elliot, though, much to a lot of people's chagrin, that he may actually be back on his way up into the conversation of, dare I say, victory and or at least a very good finish this week. Because, listen, there are some people that you can continue to kick and kick and kick and kick and kick and kick and kick until at one point they actually get back up again. And Kyle Larson's too good a driver to not get back up after being kicked that much. I don't know that we've seen him suffer this much in his career through such a, and Elliot, let's not kid ourselves. We say dry spell, but the guy's actually won a race this season. There are people that have never won a race, or Kyle Busch that haven't run a race in a couple of seasons. That's a dry spell. If we're talking about a dry spell for a guy that has gone 2/3 of the season without winning a race, it says a lot about what we consider that driver's potential to be.
Yeah, you looking at it, it's 20 races without a win now for Larson, which by his standards is quite a while there. going to be a lot of Kyle Larson talk tonight. I can tell you that much. In terms of my winnings from the weekend on the Cup side, really, I should have just had more unit share on my road course classics, and it would have really helped me out. And the toughest thing for me, the bad beat of the week, was Kyle Larson passing Christopher Bell for second place there. Would have had that SVG and Chris Bell straight forecast that Seth and I were both on, as well as my Bell over Larson matchup that I took at a -130. Priest says the top four, it came pretty close too at +750. Only missed that by a couple spots to Busher, but it wasn't a bad week by any means. The SVG Zilich outright parlay on the Cup and Xfinity side hit. SVG's outright at +110, of course, hit. Those have become really easy money on the road courses this year. Bell top 5 at +160 worked pretty well. Same with Chase Elliott top 10 at -150. I had a lot of matchups on my card last week. It didn't go very well. Just 1 for 6 I was able to get McDowell over Chastain at -120, but the rest did not go so good, including Kyle Busch over Alex Bowman that was dead on the first lap after poor Kyle Busch. I mean, what a year he's had. Any particular shout-outs, picks, anything you want to shout out from your ROVAL winnings last weekend?
Yeah, well, I mean, Bell top 5 was just a no-brainer for anything, right? That was one that I was riding pretty heavy. Got him, like you said, at +160 over on Hard Rock, so I was pretty happy about that. A little bummed that I missed out on the Logano top 10. I had Reddick over Elliott, which, that was just a one that I got, but not the way I wanted to, right? I think I got it. No, I didn't get it. Elliott did beat him by 2 spots. That was the tough part. That was a really bad beat because I think Reddick was beating Elliott for a better part of that, and then at the very end, and then one of those last restarts, ended up not getting much better truck outcome though. I did hit Ruggiero as a top 5 truck at 7-1. That was pretty good, and I had the Heim outright because, like I said, Zilich on the ROVAL and Zilich in the truck series in general was not necessarily the safest bet because he hasn't been winning those races like he's been winning Xfinity races, and Heim, he's the guy to beat. So that was very easy. I had a Honeycutt over Caruth. That one didn't pan out so much as well. As far as the Xfinity series went, I had Allgaier to win, but the Eckes top 5 and top 3 I was on, and then Sanchez over Love. That one I was on, but that one didn't hit either. So yeah, I mean, just some good stuff, and some of them were hitting until they weren't. And just a typical day at the ROVAL. I will say, Elliot, though, I know there's a lot of people that are down on the ROVAL race, but if you can make things interesting for yourself, then it's a decent enough race. It's not, I don't want to see it back again, but it's like Brussels sprouts or even broccoli. I'll eat them. I won't choose them, but I'll eat them if they're in front of me. So I think the ROVAL's like Brussels or like broccoli. You plug your nose and you eat it, and hopefully you enjoy it.
Yeah, that's kind of the argument I made last week, is that it's not even that the ROVAL's a bad race. It's just that the Charlotte Oval has put on such good racing lately that, of course, we would much rather see that. That's a heck of a mug there, Rod. Sorry to interrupt there. We both got the full mugs going tonight. Hockey's back, and Hooters is always a good one to represent. Anyway, with some of the points racing too, kind of surprised me. We saw, of course, Sammy Smith was able to hop over Taylor Gray to make it in just barely on the Xfinity side. And on the Cup side too, Logano, we both were on the top 10. I think Seth may have even been as well. He just didn't have a good day. I mean, Chastain at times was running pretty well, just shot himself in the foot twice during that race on pit road and still almost made it work. Logano, though, ballsy call to come in, take the tires, end up racing your way forward. And a guy like Tyler Reddick too, he went in feeling like he was in a must-win deal, only was out by 12 points. I feel like if he knew that those guys on the cut line were going to run 20th all day and finish there, maybe you go points racing, maybe that 45 is able to get in and make Michael Jordan, who was at the track, a little happier. Yeah,
well, unfortunately, that's just hindsight, right? You don't really know until you know. And if you're Denny Hamlin, you don't know that the guy behind you is trying to race for a playoff or a point to get into the next round, and you hold him up and you wreck him out. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of the state of the play nowadays. And I was telling Cody the other day on our show, it's not show friends anymore, it's show money. And I feel like, in the last, 5 or 6 years, it's trended that direction, where before you may get a little bit, everybody was racing for themselves. Yeah. But I feel like you gave a little more leeway to other folks, and not the current crop of kids that are coming up. It's, kill or be killed at this point.
Yeah. And you can't have any friends in the playoffs, especially with how the standings look now, with all 3 series now in the round of 8. On the Cup side, Denny Hamlin is at +8, so things definitely closer on the Cup side than they have been. Hamlin only at +8 in the lead. Ryan Baney +6. Kyle Larson and William Byron are both +4. Christopher Bell below the cut line right now, -4. And then some guys with some work to do. Chase Briscoe and Chase Elliott are both at -14, while Joey Logano enters the round of 8, -24. Potentially for each of those last 3 guys, I mean, 14 points doesn't even sound like a lot. But in the round of 8, it is very, very hard to make up points and point your way in if you don't have that bulk of playoff points that your Hamlins, Blaney's, and Larsons do.
And we see it all the time. And this is why it gets difficult sometimes to handicap in the middle of the playoffs, is because that top 10 pylon is just occupied by all of those playoff drivers. And it just seems like a block of whatever color they decide to throw up on the graphic that week. And so when you're a bookmaker, yeah, you're going to lean heavy on the playoff folks and make them more favorited than the rest. And so, yeah, and it gets tough because, like you said, to try to gain points against a block of whatever those playoff drivers are, you have to beat these guys, and it's hard to beat them when they're all running together.
Yeah, and even running up front is not going to help you if you don't have those playoff points. Of course, the lesson that I always look back to with some of these guys that are behind, watching Alex Bowman run in the round of 8 in 2020, not a lot of playoff points coming in. Runs 3rd, 5th, and 6th in that round, nowhere close on points, not even close. You have guys winning and getting in is the way to do it. That we already know that's the mindset Logano has. He's better at this than anyone in the history of the playoffs, of course. And for Briscoe and Elliott, I feel like they almost have to have that mentality as well. On the Xfinity side, of course, they're starting the round of 8 also. Connor Zilic is +57 on the cut line. That is the largest starting gap in a round of 8 in Xfinity playoff history. So Zilic probably in good shape. Justin Allgaier has to be feeling pretty good too at +24. Then things start to get tighter. Brandon Jones at +4. Sam Mayer +2. Jesse Love at -2. Sammy Smith -7. Carson Kvapil -11. Sheldon Creed -13. Almost the same sort of deal. Kvapil and Creed probably looking at having to win. Jesse Love, I almost was trying to look into cashing out that 7-1 title bet. That round of 12 did not really go well for that too. And of course didn't go well for his teammate either, getting knocked out. It seems like it's going to be those JRM guys, and then it's who can grab a win here in the next 3 races.
You got to think Justin Allgaier is happy that he actually won the championship last year, because if he was waiting for this year to win against Connor Zilic, it just wasn't going to happen. This guy, I don't want to ever crown somebody before you crown them, but it's so difficult to not give Connor Zilic the nod because of how just absolutely dominant he's been. And you can say what you will about what Noah Gragson did in the field. You can say what you will about Ty Gibbs a couple of years ago and what he did to the field. But what we're seeing with Connor Zilic right now is, I mean, I'd put it up against those 2 performances and say it surpasses them, because he's just that good everywhere. And, he's a likable guy. So I kind of actually don't mind him being the representative face of the Xfinity series right now.
The beauty of this system, though, not even just the one race at Phoenix to crown the championship, but each series has Talladega looming in the round of 8, as Stan brings up. Anyone can make the championship race, that's true, and anyone can really have their title hopes derailed, especially on the truck side. 2 races left in the round of 8. They have this week off, but then we'll run Talladega, Martinsville, and Phoenix alongside Cup and Xfinity. Corey Heim gets himself out of the Hornets' nest. He would have been fine on points even if he doesn't win that race, but he is locked into Phoenix. And from there, everyone's under, not even just, when they say you can throw the cars under a blanket, this blanket's a little like twin size sheet, or like a little like crib size almost. Tyler Ankrum is +2 in second place. Daniel Hemrick is +2. Raja Karuth is +1. Lane Riggs -1. Ty Majeski -2. Grant Enfinger -4. Caden Honeycutt -4. And again, their next race is Talladega. So Heim's out of the Hornets' nest, and these 7 guys, you're almost going to see them not only run Martinsville as that elimination race, you're going to see them run Talladega almost as if it's an elimination race, or almost as if it's like that Phoenix race where everyone is going to have their chance. It's basically just whoever beats whoever is going to be at an advantage. And that, plus the normal truck series wildness that we get, it's going to be super entertaining next Friday afternoon.
They're not under a sheet. They're under a pocket square. That's how small this actually is, right? So, but for Heim, listen, and as much as I heaped praise on Connor Zilic just a second ago, and obviously Heim deserves that same level of praise, Heim's been a little more suspect lately than Connor Zilic has been on some of these tracks, where Heim has had mechanical errors that have taken him out of a few wins. I mean, again, not to take anything away from what Heim has done this season, but if anybody is as suspect, and thankfully you're right, he is on to the next round, which for him, I'm sure he's very happy that Talladega is now out there to come and jump on him. But I think when we get to Phoenix, though, Lane Riggs may have something for. I mean, these guys that have been around him all season long. You've seen these guys kind of get him every once in a while, whether it's a failure, whether it's a pit failure, whether it's a driver error, which is very rare to happen. But I feel like Corey Haim has the most defense to play over Connor Zilic if we're talking series champions going into Phoenix. So I'm very, very excited to watch how this truck series plays out, because it just seems like it's been more competitive. Even though Haim's been winning all the races, it still feels like somebody else can jump in and get that. Yeah,
that really doesn't seem like the case, the Xfinity level, where Zilic still hasn't finished outside the top 5 since he missed Talladega. So definitely more dominant there. And with Haim too, he's hoping for max chaos at Talladega. And he would rather see, I feel like if you're talking about who you want to face at Phoenix when he still hasn't been able to break through and win that title, I feel like Haim would rather see, Ankrum, Carruth, and Honeycutt to race at Phoenix than he would Hemrick, Riggs, and Enfinger or Majeski, the guys who have kind of been there and done that before.
Oh, yeah. No, if you were to pick your competitors, I would definitely check off those boxes, because Riggs has been giving him hell all year, and that's why you don't want Riggs in the Final Four.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That will be really fun to watch. We do have Las Vegas to get to. We'll talk about some news of the week first. First, the little silly season move. Harrison Burton eliminated from the playoffs at the ROVAL, and they announced that he and AM Racing will be parting ways after 2025. Harrison Burton, the rumors are, nothing official yet, the rumors are Sam Hunt Racing could be a landing spot for Harrison Burton. I feel like this was a mutually beneficial partnership. Burton ran really well, got them into the playoffs. AM Racing really needed some consistency and to kind of learn how to be an Xfinity team. Now whatever's next for AM, we know that Ford is going to have a big-time shortage there. So it opens the Ford seat for a Ford guy. Harrison Burton, potentially, with the rumors, getting a possible upgrade there in the Sam Hunt equipment.
And I know that we talked about this, Cody and I, as far as sometimes when you need to just take a step back, especially in NASCAR, because the Cup Series is hard. It's not meant to be a walk in the park every Sunday, and you are going to struggle, and some teams struggle more than others, and some drivers struggle more than others. But the good part about NASCAR is that you do have an Xfinity series or a truck series to sort of just go catch your breath, right? Go remember why you got into racing in the first place in some cases, or how to race again, or just clear your head of all of the stress of Sundays. And good on Harrison Burton to be able to do that, right? And to take this team into the playoffs to prove that he is a driver that deserves a ride somewhere, right? That he is actually a good driver, that the Cup Series that he had, the Cup Series season that he had last year, even though he won a race, was not really indicative of his potential. So I'm glad to see him bounce back. I'm glad to see him get potentially another ride this year, maybe a little, I don't want to say better ride, because he actually turned that AM Racing into a pretty good ride himself. So yeah, I mean, this is good news for him. I know that his post on social media lacked the Ford logo on his jersey, so maybe we see him switch manufacturers, like you said. But good on him. I'm glad. I'm anxious to see where he's going and good things he can do in his new ride.
Yeah, we'll break it down more extensively in the offseason, but definitely a successful season both for Burton and for AM Racing. Even though it's a one-year partnership, feels like it's definitely a success. Moving into more of the fast lap news section, some faster laps hopefully coming at some tracks next year. NASCAR President Steve O'Donnell saying on the Dale Jr. download, 750 horsepower, up from, I believe, 670, will run at every track under 1.5 miles, and the road courses in 2026. It's an incremental increase. I know that O'Donnell said if we were to go any higher than 750, it would be, a few more millions of dollars that they really can't justify spending. But to move up from the 670 number to 750, how much do you think that's going to help next year?
So it's interesting because when you think about the balance that plays, and I guess maybe now I heard some drivers that saying, you just hit the gas and hopefully you just can handle what it gives you. But now that extra layer of speed, now you do have to think about, am I going too fast for this track? Am I going too fast for this car to handle? And then does that equate to tire wear because of the speeds that you're going and what you're asking the car to do and the load that you're putting it under? But now you have to think about playing with the throttle a little more because you can't just mash the gas. And I was saying that you hear a lot of the limiters, right? Like anytime you're hearing those limiters going, it just means they're mashing the gas and they're just hoping to God that, they can handle it. But now you can't do that anymore because you have to think about lifting. You have to think about the pressure you're putting on the tires and the load that you're putting on the car. And I think that does make it a little more interesting because some drivers may not be able to deal with that. You know, I know that on NASCAR video games, right, when you don't worry about tire wear or anything like that, and you just hold the gas trigger down and just drive, I feel like that's what a lot of these drivers are doing at these lower horsepowers, and they were getting away with it. Now you can't do that.
Yeah, shout out to the auto brake and to unlimited fuel and tires on those NASCAR games. Certainly made things easier. Just zoom on through. NASCAR 25 coming out for some people this week too. Gonna have to get a next-gen console and check that out here. Maybe Black Friday sales could be a good time to do that. We'll have to see. But it will be fun to watch. I mean, a lot of the drivers, of course, some of them have got to be worried about, can I handle this? Am I going to be any good? But a lot of the drivers, as well as the fans, saying we just need to try something because especially on the shorter tracks, it just has not been good. Guys have getting stuck behind each other. Maybe just making the cars a little harder to drive could just add another layer and hopefully keep some of these passing issues and things from happening. It's worth a shot, and I'm glad to see NASCAR giving it a shot. They're showing that they're willing to make some change, which is good. And a change that I feel like they might need to make. I feel like they need to get off of the soapbox, what we're about to talk about. NASCAR going to meet with teams this weekend and remind them that any form of race manipulation will not be tolerated. Of course, some questions in the Cup side of Denny Hamlin not knowing the points, and saying he would not have passed Chastain, knowing that that would have knocked Logano out. Some teams, on the last lap, some drivers being told, save your tires here, save your tires. Don't go and pass that manufacturer teammate up there. And then on the Xfinity side, 2 Xfinity teams were given a warning that, quote, if the points didn't have to do with them, their specific car and vehicle, then we didn't want to see them talking about points. They mentioned this on Door Bumper Clear as well, where I don't know if they were talking about Zilich's team or somebody who was not involved in the cut line battle, just asking how the points were going. And all the spotter did was look at the standings and read the standings and gets a warning for it. I know they want to avoid the race manipulation, but if you're not going to give any penalties for things that are pretty clearly race manipulation, I don't know where you draw the line here. I just think it's kind of ridiculous. Let the drivers do what they're going to do, and if there's obvious race manipulation, it'll be easy enough to see, kind of like it was last year at Martinsville when, thankfully, Christopher Bell hits the wall and pulls the half Hail Melon. Otherwise, they really would have had to dig in and probably dish out some race manipulation penalties.
Or we just embrace full-on F1 where you just, hey, nope, let him pass you because we need the points. And then because, look, who are we fooling? It doesn't even matter to you, or to me, rather, what they say, because we know as long as there's teams, right, as long as there's places that you can sort of make the move or not make the move and benefit you on points, they're going to do it, right? If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. It's an old NASCAR adage for a reason. And this is just the newest, I guess I don't want to say newest, but it is the topic du jour of how we're trying to bring these things up. And it's going to happen one way or another. How do you mask it? How do you police it? Because guess what? You change the rules. Well, they'll find a new way to push the boundaries of those rules, because that's what NASCAR's always been, and it always will be. So, yeah, the soapbox thing, it's done for me. Like, don't sit there and preach to us that this is a sanctimonious thing when, man, people have been pushing the limits of NASCAR for a very, very long time, and it's just not going to change.
Yeah, and it is funny how things change over time. Longtime NASCAR journalist Jeff Gluck bringing up an article he wrote in 2007, 2008 about how drivers were admitting, yeah, if my teammate's in the playoffs and I'm not, I'm just going to let him by it. I don't care. Of course, it's not spoken as openly on the radios, and I feel like that may be a detriment of everyone can listen to every radio on the internet now, and they can stream everyone's radio and in-car camera through HBO. It's awesome for the fans, but it does give you that, it gives the average Joe Schmo watching on TV the ability to play official and to play policeman there. And, someone can tweet out, hey, listen to this, that maybe NASCAR wasn't catching in real time. Either way, things just get kind of messy. It'll be interesting to see if any of that continues here on the round of 8. TK bringing up on Hamlin, I think more than anything, he was annoyed they didn't tell him Chastain would be desperate to make a move. Probably could have avoided that if he thought he was coming. The other thing, though, about Denny is he said he didn't know if he was running 10th or 30th. He didn't hear anything the last run. And that could have been the case, They could have said on the radio, hey, the one is desperate. He may crash us here. But then they could have looked at that probably as saying, well, you're telling him Chastain's in a precarious position, and so that can affect your decisions there. I just think that would be a fun part of strategy. Of course, you can't have a team saying this is what we're doing. I don't think it can go to a full F1 level, but I feel like dropping hints can't be the worst thing in the world, man, you know?
Well, and I mean, again, they're plausible deniability. I wasn't telling him that he was in the playoffs. I was just telling him that he was going to come for you pretty heavy. Like, you can defend that statement. And I know it may seem, and it may exactly be what you meant, that he's going to pass you and you better let him by because he's looking for a playoff spot. But, you know, semantics, my friend, that is why. But I'll tell you this too. And just to wrap up that thought,
yeah,
not everybody was meant to know everything about anything. So to me, it feels crazy because we live in a world where you can know everything, but I feel like people weren't meant to do that. And it's just so difficult nowadays to navigate because we do know a lot more than we ever did. And it just, our brains are processing it all in too fast of a rate. At least mine is anyways.
That's a whole separate conversation. We're going to need a whole other podcast, I think, to break down that. Some of the comments here, looking ahead to Kansas, predicting Christopher Bell wins Cup. Lots of Bell picks. Marcus getting all these guys. Same with Stan as well. Bell, the no-brainer pick for this weekend. I can feel it in my soul. Unfortunately for Stan, has been trapped in communist states of Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri and have been unable to bet. Seth's been able to make some bets, though, but going to need some big hits on racing this week. TNF not off to a great start. TK also mentioning it's valid for them to not tell him based on the NASCAR issue. Certainly annoying to not be able to say anything. One last thought here. If a guy like Chastain is that guy who's behind you or is ahead of you, or if it's a Hocevar, you can say, don't pass this guy, watch out, they're going to wreck you, 9 weeks out of 10. It doesn't take the playoffs just to believe that.
Oh, it absolutely doesn't take the playoffs to believe that. Yeah, so, I mean, whatever. Take it with a grain of salt. We'll see if anything changes, which I don't think it will.
Now it'll be fun to watch, and so will the racing this weekend at Las Vegas. Let's start to break it down in the Horizon Forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
This week, the Cup and Xfinity Series racing in Sin City, including Trevor Bayne in that Sam Hunt number 24. A little SpongeBob action on the car. Gotta love it. Jimmy Johnson, some memorable SpongeBob races as well, along with some others. On the Cup side, your 36 normal entries. JJ Yaley in the number 44. Catherine Legg back in the number 78. On the Xfinity side, 38 cars. Like I mentioned, Bayne in the 24. Daniel Hemrick in the 11. Corey Day in the 17. Getting to the point of not even being worth mentioning because the finishes just aren't there. Eric Almirola in the number 19 definitely could be worth betting. Like I mentioned, Bayne in the 24. And nice to see Jordan Anderson racing, giving Austin Green some more oval starts, getting him some stuff there. Weekend schedule, pretty simple this week. 2 series, Saturday, Sunday. Xfinity practice and qualifying 2 o'clock Saturday. Cup practice and qualifying 4:30. And the Focused Health 3:02 Xfinity race 7:30 on the CW. Stage lengths there 45, 45, and 111. And on Sunday, it's the last race of the year on USA. The final 3 will be over the air broadcast, Big NBC as they call it. 5:30, the start of the South Point 400. Stage lengths 80, 85, and 102. Good old classic mile-and-a-half race. Going to be pretty interesting to watch. Same tires that were used at Kansas. I don't know what that says about how similar this race weekend will be to the one we just had 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I don't know how, because again, I know these are cookie cutters. And by the way, the last mile and a half on the schedule for the year. So say goodbye to mile and a halves after this. But yeah, I don't know. This always seems to play out a little differently than Kansas does. I know it's a cookie cutter track, and I know you can draw some similarities, but I feel like Vegas is usually a standalone in how well these guys run, especially a lot of these guys that really do love themselves some Vegas tracks.
Yeah, and the fewer times that we go to these mile and a halves, it seems like the more varied they become almost. And maybe that's because they're not stacked together as well, or you don't get to nail down the habits, 10 times a year. It's interesting to see these 1.5 mile intermediate tracks. Vegas, of course, kind of a land of its own. In terms of how iFantasy Race broke it down, listed Kansas as a primary, Michigan, Charlotte, and Texas as a secondary. Honestly, in terms of those tracks, I would argue Texas probably more of a primary. I feel like Vegas, Texas, and Kansas are all ones that kind of go together. Michigan, of course, races like a big mile and a half. Charlotte, of course, your traditional mile and a half. Seth and Ryan also threw in Homestead in the model. I feel like that makes sense too. Mile and a half-ish, even though it races more like a Darlington than it does a Kansas. I feel like those are all good ones to look at. I don't know if you have any thoughts on those tracks in particular. Like I said, Kansas, Texas, probably both primaries for me.
Yeah, and again, it would the cookie cutter era of mile and a half tracks. So if we were talking about this 4 or 5 years ago, we would probably say that they're pretty much direct comps. But like you said, it's the fact that we don't have that many of them anymore in a row that it makes it difficult to feel like these are cookie cutter tracks anymore.
I definitely do use the fact that we were just at Kansas 2 races ago as a big argument towards some of my bets. So I'm definitely putting some more weight on that. Then maybe I should be, but hey, we'll go with it. The trends for the weekend, there've been quite a few races here at this point, quite a few next-gen races here, but still some weird intricacies that I feel like we don't normally see. Starting off with qualifying, your average starting position, Austin Cindric leads the Cup Series with an average start of 7.1. Larson and Logano both in that 7 bracket as well. With Byron, Busch, and Bell all with an average starting position around 10th. Your active pole winners, Logano and Bell, have done it 3 times. Kyle Busch has won 2 here. McDowell, Reddick, Jones, Blaney, and Keselowski with 1 each. McDowell winning the pole in the spring here this year, which I had forgotten about. In terms of poles, JGR has 8 total. Penske has 7. Hendrick Motorsports only 2 poles here. None since 2015, and they're behind 2 defunct teams, Stewart Haas Racing and Robert Yates Racing. In terms of the pole positions there. When you start to get into the race, though, when you look at the next-gen races, your race winners, none of them starting from the pole. That doesn't happen often, as I'll mention. Your winners started 13th, 5th, 2nd 3 times in a row, so 2nd, 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 10th, and 7th, while your pole winners, 10th, 6th, 36th, 2nd, 9th, 2nd, and 16th. The only win from the pole here was 2009 Kyle Busch. No one else has won from the pole. Definitely a very interesting stat here that you really don't see at other tracks, when almost every other track, it's your pole position wins more races than anyone else.
Yeah, and I think that just lends itself to the way the Vegas races anyways, and that it is sort of a wide open sort of a track that you don't just jump out to a huge lead automatically and just keep it. And you know, and now, especially with stage breaks and all that other good stuff, it's made it difficult to win from the pole at any track, to be honest with you, let alone a track like Vegas.
Yeah, if you put it all on black in qualifying, you can't let it ride all on black throughout the race, it looks like. Active race winners, Logano, 4 career wins here in Sin City. Larson and Keselowski have 3 apiece, and then each of Josh Berry, William Byron, Alex Bowman, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch have wins here. When you look at the next-gen races, I think it's the 7th or 8th that we're going to have. I believe it's the 8th. Toyota does not have a win here in the next-gen. Very interesting, especially because Toyotas have been dominant. They were dominant at Kansas. Have had some good luck this year on the earlier next gens, but none here. And the only first-time winner as well that ever happened at Las Vegas was Josh Berry in the spring.
And it's weird to see that because when I was doing the research for this race altogether, I was trying to figure out manufacturer, if I wanted to bet on manufacturer. And I did place a Chevy bet on that because I just noticed that the trend was it was Chevy Ford, Chevy Ford, Chevy Ford. Toyota was back, 2019, I think was the last time that Toyota has won a race on this track. And it just, with all of JGR, and that's why I know all of you guys are pumping Christopher Bell so hard, but it's hard to think that he can win this race when a Toyota hasn't won this race in 6 or 7 years. It's tough to see that happening.
Yeah, it will be tough. It'll be interesting to see as well. In terms of qualifying position, like I said, only 1 win from the pole here all time. Kyle Busch in 2009. P2, though, 7 winners, 20%, which is the most. So the front row is still pretty good. Just for whatever reason, the pole doesn't work out. Top 5, about 40% of your winners. Top 10, about 63%. Outside of the top 10, though, you're getting 37% of your winners. Outside the top 20, 14.29%. 5 guys have won from outside the top 20 here, but none of them are active. So not something that traditionally happens. Remember I said with the polls, JGR has a bunch, and Hendrick doesn't have many. When you go to the wins, Hendrick leads the series with 10 wins. Penske and RFK each have 7. Joe Gibbs Racing only 4. So JGR can qualify pretty well. Your Bells and Hamlins generally can qualify pretty well. When it comes to the race wins, it has been a lot of Hendrick. And lately, it's been a lot of Larson, too. He has the top active average finish here, 9.389. Logano's is second at 9.75. And then all in about the 12th place bracket, you have Busch, Keselowski, and Hamlin, all with good average finishes here. 5 overtimes, including in the spring of 2022 and 2023. Not in any of the fall races, though, in the next-gen era. An important note, too, I know this is kind of contradicting Seth's thumbnail. He puts Bowman, a non-playoff driver, on there and says, is an upset coming? Probably not. A non-playoff driver has not won a NASCAR Cup Series playoff race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. It's been a playoff track since 2018, and we've never had one of those upsets. So probably not coming this weekend, and I don't think our bets reflect that either. In terms of drivers who have been able to win this race and then win the title, happened in 21, 22, and 24 with Larson and Logano twice, of course, all locking themselves in that round. 21 was not rocking into the championship for, but 22 and 24 were, with Joey Logano pulling his even year magic that maybe sprinkling into the odd year. We'll have to see there with Logano. One more trend here. It's the iFantasyRace.com asterisk mark driver of the week, Rob.
Our buddy Ryan Baney, once again, the spring race at Las Vegas. Ryan Baney was a top 5 contender, but he finished a misleading 35th. In the race, Blaney started in the back, drove up to 17th on lap 31, but had a super slow pit stop that dropped him off of the lead lap. And when stage 1 ended, Blaney finished 34th. In stage 2, Blaney rebounded to finish 6th, but in the last stage, Blaney was 6th on lap 185. Shortly after that, on lap 195, caught up in a restart wreck, leading to his 35th place finish. Elliot, how many times have we seen a promising day ended by a terrible late race restart? Gotta hate late race cautions.
Yeah, I mean, we saw it at the ROVAL in a couple series, kind of affected some guys. And yeah, this was just part of Ryan Blaney's miserable spring stretch where he had the speed, but then just incidents happened, blowing motors and getting involved in crashes and this, that, and the other. We have not seen that Blaney very much. This race, though, particularly chaotic for all the drivers in the round of 8. We just talked about Blaney. Each of the 24 and the 5 had pit strategy kind of knocked them back. Of course, it was Josh Berry and Daniel Suarez battling for the win in the last run. Chase Elliott had a speeding penalty, knocked him back. Chase Briscoe loses a wheel, knocks him back. Christopher Bell, it was this race that I think was the first instance of, hey, we have a loose wheel, go find a teammate's box, have them tighten the lug nut. They had to start at the back, which was better than losing a wheel. But for Christopher Bell, they had that issue as well. Danny Hamlin speeding penalty and then burned on pit strategy by that late caution. And Joey Logano, a bad pit stop, took him out of contention. That is 8 of 8 in the round of 8 had some sort of weird thing happen in the spring race, and they all will desperately be hoping to not have it happen in this fall race. And that's been the case on so many cases. I mean, we didn't even talk about Austin Cindric at the ROVAL. Normally a guy with road course prowess, just running into incidents, making mistakes, not being able to hang, and was not even close at any point throughout the day.
Yeah, best believe that all those 8 teams are popping the VHS tapes into their tape player and watching the spring race to try to figure out how not to screw up again.
Yeah, man, I would love if there was, imagine if like Richard Childress was still that old school. There's some intern that has to, somehow put it from TV onto the VHS, the old school recording. And I can see some of our team owners in that series potentially doing that. Maybe Rick Hendrick in his place in Charlotte. Anyway, regardless of how you want to watch the race this weekend, we're glad that you're tuned in here. And we're excited to get to the bets here. Let's break down what we've got on the books in the parking garage props. Personally, I don't have anything super crazy that stands out about the books, which makes sense because the 1.5 miles typically don't have a whole lot of variance like we do at the road courses, Rob.
Yeah, and I actually was happy that they gave us as many options as they did and as early as they did. So that's the one compliment I have of them. But yeah, I mean, look, it's all pretty much the same. And when we get to this part of the season, especially when the books are having to deal with NFL at a heavy volume, the fact that they give us anything on NASCAR, I don't want to say we should be grateful because we should be treated like a sport that needs to be bet week in and week out. But I guess at this point, we've been trained to be grateful for whatever we get.
Yeah, and again, you're coming up with points I'm not thinking of here. That is something that I feel like has grown because I feel like when we were first really starting out these shows a couple of years ago, I feel like, especially you guys doing your primary NASCAR gambling podcasts a little earlier in the week, at least we can kind of wait till Thursday and you get some more offerings out. But there have been weeks where even on Thursdays, not really this year, but even as recently as last year, not even having a lot of cup offerings and having absolutely nothing on the books for Xfinity and trucks on those weekends.
Yeah. And so again, like we said, we need to have a discussion with the books over the off season, but we are thankful for what you're giving us. Just give us more. That's all.
Yeah, you can give us more. We'll bet it. Give me the top 20s every week. Give me matchups of everybody. We are degenerates and we will bet it. And we know that there are others out there who are like us. In terms of getting into the bets here, we've talked about him a little bit. We think the slump is over for Kyle Larson, Rob.
I got so much flack for this on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. Cody just pretty much lambasted me for a good 5 minutes about my backing of Kyle Larson. And I understand every argument against Kyle Larson. And if you want to stay away from him, then that is your prerogative, because I can totally see your side of it, right? I'm not saying that you're not wrong for everything you feel, because if you bet on Kyle Larson since Indianapolis, you have been sorely disappointed, with the exception of last week at the ROVAL, if you had him for a top 3 or a top 5 or, some sort of matchup, in which case he rewarded you for it. But there's just something to be said about guys at the top of their profession and just being held down so long, right? I mean, maybe that second place at the ROVAL was a wake-up call for Kyle Larson, or maybe just a reminder that, hey, I can still do this. I hate to say that about a guy who just won a race 20 races ago, but at the same time, we're talking about Kyle Larson, who many say is a generational talent, and he is, right? He obviously can win in anything he sets his foot in. So when you're getting plus 480 for a guy that is, look, the top of the speed charts, like I have it sitting in front of me, and our buddies at iFantasy Race, Ryan has done such a great job of compiling this for us. He's first on the speed ranking chart, 3.14 overall, right? He's been the fastest in 2025 in the spring, and he was the fastest in 2024 in the spring, second fastest in the fall of 2023 and the spring of 2023. So, the finishes for him have also been fairly good, right? I mean, with the exception of 2022, where he finished in 35th, he's had a top 10 finish in all but 2 of his next gen races, second in 2021 in the spring, second in 2023 in the spring, first in 2023 in the fall, first in 2024 in the fall, or in the spring rather, and then 11th and 9th. So look, say what you will about Kyle Larson, and you can come at me with every single stat that's happened since Indianapolis to counter me. I get it. I understand. But I will say that when you come off of a good run and you finally break that seal of being who you are, sometimes that's all it takes. And on a track like Las Vegas, where he has been traditionally good, right? Maybe the beast is freed. Maybe he's just going to enter this round of 8 and annihilate everybody, because that's something that Kyle Larson can do. So more than anything, this is just an endorsement of his plus 480, rather than if you wanted to give like a confidence rating on this one. Out of 5, I would give this a 3.5, because to me, this is the right price for a driver that should be able to come out and win this race. So plus 480 for Kyle Larson. Come at me. You're going to be right, but when he wins this race, I'll be right.
As much as I would love to sit here and argue with you and have a great little back and forth here, I'm completely on you with Larson too. I've got plenty of more Larson stats to rattle off with another bet that I have, but I do also have his outright. I was able to lock down a couple 25% boosts on BetMGM. Thanks for those. I don't know where those came from, but I got them, and I used them on a couple outrights. I was able to nab the Larson outright at almost 6-1, plus 593 on BetMGM. Pretty solid there. I've got other Larson bets this week that I'll talk about. I've got more stats I'll rattle off here. One off the top of my head, though. Since the win at Kansas, he had a 4-race stretch where he was, I think, top 5, top 6, 4 races in a row. His Bristol win, a couple other top whatevers, and then the Kansas win. The past 3 races have been the first 3-race stretch. He's been top 10, 3 races in a row since that stretch way back when. So we are seeing the best Kyle Larson that we've seen since he was winning races, and it really is only a matter of time. My Larson bet's a top 5. We'll get to that in a little, but I had 3 BetMGM boosts, and I used them on 3 outrights. So the first one was Larson. The second one's Denny Hamlin to get it up to a plus 687 there. In terms of Vegas, was not a great spring race for him. And it wasn't, it's not a track that there have been a lot of super duper great finishes here for him. You don't have a whole run of second places or stuff like you do Larson. But he's at least led laps in every other next-gen Vegas race and at every other comp track this year. It's not just the 159 laps he led at Kansas, even with that power steering fading. It's 50-plus in the last 3 races on comp tracks there. So he's running up front, even if you throw asterisk marks and bad pit strategy and pit issues or broken drivetrains or whatever in there. You're still seeing Denny Hamlin have speed at these places. In terms of Vegas in general, 4 next-gen top 10s, he ranks second in the model. And in terms of that total speed ranking on the comp tracks, like I said, 50-plus laps led in the last 3, top 5 total speed ranking in the last 3, including a second and then a first. Of course, the top total speed ranking there, Kansas. The only thing is, never having seen a Toyota winning a race at the next gen level here. But man, he just ran so good at Kansas, and we saw the JGR cars run so good there, as I'll talk about a little later, that I have to at least sprinkle a little bit on the Toyota here.
Well, and you're almost getting 7-1, right? Again, a lot of gambling is just knowing the right price for a specific bet and finding the value in that bet, right? And obviously for a guy like Denny Hamlin, who can win just about anywhere at any time at any place, right? I mean, it's not a bad bet at 7-1 to almost 7-1 to think that he could win this race, even though trends point differently. I mean, and I know we get caught up in the thinking that the past performance is going to actually predict the future, right? Which it very rarely does. I know that we lean on stats, and we have to because we have nothing else to go off of. But why can't Denny Hamlin win at Vegas, even though Toyota hasn't won in forever? You can't really say that he can't, because he's proven that he can win races. And at 7-1, it's a good price for it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Why not Zoidberg, right? This is a number that I absolutely love. You're talking about knowing the numbers. I'm talking about getting boosts. And I've seen this number now as low as 9-1 on some books. But I was able to snag the Joey Logano outright, boosted up at 25-1 on BetMGM. I absolutely love this number for this bet. And this is another one of those things. We kind of went against the trends there with Hamlin, but you look at the trends and you look at the what have you done for me lately, not only in the playoffs, but in this particular Las Vegas race. It's been Joey Logano's best friend in the next gen era. I've been saying it all year. Do I have some championship money on Logano? Of course I do. You're not going to not bet on the defending champion, but we have seen his magic confined to the even years. Of course, every even year in this playoff format, championship 4. Every odd year, out of the championship 4. But you let Logano sneak in. You let Paul Wolfe sneak in. You let these guys in. You give them an inch, and they're going to take a mile. And we've seen it in 2 of the last 3 years for Logano. They already know that it's a must-win. We talked about it earlier. -24. There is 0 chance you're going to point in. I mean, we've also never seen Talladega in a round of 8. So some variables there could help you. But we haven't seen that sort of deficit get in without a win. At least I'm confident enough in that I'm pulling that stat out of my head and making it up. But -24 pointing your way into the round of championship 4 for the round of 8 would be insane. Like I said, in this race, 2 wins, 2 poles at Las Vegas as well in the next gen. He's never started outside the top 10. So just don't qualify in the poll with how the trend is going, and he should be fine. In the playoffs, too, red hot, this number 22 team. Top 5 finishes in half the playoff races. That has been good enough to get him into this round of 8 here. Of course, one of the comp tracks, Texas, earlier in the year. And another interesting wrinkle, of course, maybe the spring is not the best for drivers here. In each of the next-gen years, his fall race finish has been better than his spring race finish. He's been able to improve. And, of course, 22 and 24, you win. Obviously, you can't improve much from that. But just seeing that improvement there, even if the spring is not perfect, you're going to improve in the fall. He was 15th here in the spring. Very easily could see him being 14 positions better come the fall race.
And the great part about Joey Logano, he doesn't have to be the fastest guy on the track to get these wins, right? Because there is strategy involved. There is Joey Logano's pure talent that's involved. Because if you look at the heat chart, the speed rankings heat chart for my fantasy race, Joey Logano's 9th overall on the list. And even in the races that he won, right? He was it 14th fastest 10th fastest in 2024 in the spring when he won. And, it just, to me, it's like you don't have to necessarily be the fastest guy on the track for Joey Logano. 10th fastest in the fall when he won. So, yeah, he doesn't have to be the fastest guy on the track to win. And, sometimes you can come out and you're like, oh, man, Joey Logano's not fast. Well, wait till the end. Wait till the end. He may surprise you.
Yeah, they pay out the point. Well, they pay out points in the middle of the race, too. But they pay out the big points and the tickets to advance to Phoenix in that last race there. And say what you will about the playoffs, the fact they've been able to win 3 titles, they've been able to really master this playoff format. And to be able to have a 25-1 on a guy who's been able to pull off that chicanery 2 out of the 3 next-gen years, I feel pretty good about it, regardless whether it works or not. But I've got things spread around, like I said, an outright on a Ford, a Chevy, and a Toyota, and then doubling down with the Larson top 5 at -130 on Bet365. You mentioned he was at the top of the speed charts. He's at the top of the speed charts in terms of total speed ranking here in the spring, in the next gen at Las Vegas overall. He's top of our model. He's top of this total speed rankings on high-speed mile and a halves this year. He's top just about everywhere except the last 20 races there for the number 5 team. In the next gen, you talked about some of the finishes. 4 next gen top 2 finishes here. Could very easily be to 3 or even 4 wins. 466 total laps led. has led in 6 of the 7 next-gen races in each of the last 5. And if you take out that Charlotte mess, gets back from wrecking in Indianapolis, is leading at Charlotte, crashes out, doesn't run well there. Average finish on the rest of the comps of 4.2. That includes a Homestead win. That includes a Kansas win. I think I included the Homestead in this stat here because it was in our betting model, even if it's not a super direct comp. Still shows that even though Larson has not won in quite a while, he's still getting some good finishes there. Kansas in the spring, obviously a great win. That race didn't go as well in the fall a couple of weeks ago, and nor did things go well in the spring here. But I think he's out of the slump enough to at least have the faith in a top 5 and being able to boost the outright to almost 6-1 here. I feel like I couldn't pass that up as well.
And it is tough. We talked about it earlier, right? It's Kyle Larson. It's just you can say, and we can laugh and we can joke and we can point about the fact that he hasn't been as good as he's been as of late, and that Captain Shook is a thing at this point. But man, you just sometimes the best of the best. I mean, I'm sure Jordan went through slumps, right? He went to baseball and had a biggest slump in baseball, and we pointed and laughed at him. Then he came back and he ended up winning more championships. So, again, Kyle Larson, take it for what you will. We can have fun laughing about his slow streak right now, but at some point that's going to pick back up, and there's pretty much no better spot, I think, than now to try to make that happen for Kyle Larson.
And it really is perfect timing because he was able to build up enough of a points cushion to be, I think in the round of 16, he was tied for the point lead. Now he's +4. So you really have to turn it on. They're getting hot at the right time. And it's funny to say for the guy that over the last, since moving to this 5 car, has been the best driver in the series. It's funny to say, oh, this guy's getting hot. Don't let him get hot. That's just how the year's gone for Larson, and maybe they're able to get hot at the right time and ride that championship run. Wouldn't surprise me at all, and not the last time I'm going to talk about Larson tonight, but I want to get your top 5 bet first.
Yeah, so the guy that got boxed out of the playoffs, we're going to turn to Ross Chastain. I like his top 5 number. When I was compiling my bets, I was looking for Ross Chastain, and there weren't top 10s out yet. At the time when I was putting these together. So I went to his top 5 number because I noticed a fun little trend that I liked, and I liked the +325 that we're getting by ESPN Bet. And, I was like, well, I could dip down to the top 10. And if you want to dip down to the top 10, that's fine, but it's juiced more than I'm particularly comfortable with. But I really do like his top 5 number for Ross Chastain. If you look at the overall finishes for Ross Chastain on this one, you don't have to scroll far because it's right at the top. He has the best average finish in Las Vegas in the next gen era. Now, people are going to be like, yeah, but he hasn't been that good lately. Well, look, Ross Chastain, this is 7 races worth, right? This is 3 years and an extra race worth of data that we're pulling through. Has Ross Chastain been the top driver in the series for 3.5 years? No, he's suffered through some pretty bad stretches in all of those spans, and yet his average finish overall is 5.43, right? Which makes a +325, just over 3-1 bet on a top 5 for him to finish here. Almost a lock, right? He finished 5th in the spring, 7th in the fall of 2024, 4th in the spring of 2024, 5th in the fall of 2023. Did have a 12th place finish, which is dragging his average down in the spring of 2023, but that was a 12th place finish. That wasn't like he finished 43rd and on his hood out of 35 cars, right? It's not that bad of a finish, all things considered. But in 2022, 3rd in the spring, 2nd in the fall. So, I mean, I know that Cody was taking his top 10 with a whole lot of gusto, but I went one further and took the top 5 because if you punch me, go back to this again, if you punch me 5 times out of 7, I'm ducking on that 8th because ducking on that 8th because I know that you're about to contact again. The chance of you hitting me is greater than the chance of you missing me. So, I mean, I just absolutely love Ross Chastain this weekend. And the fact that he did miss out on the playoffs, if you watch that interview, right, that is a dejected Ross Chastain. And now he doesn't have to worry about advancing. Now he can just go out, run his damn race. And at Las Vegas, doesn't matter whatever track he's been bad at. And in fact, you can even go so far as to point to Texas earlier in the season where he got a runner-up finish, right? 1.5 miles there. Finished 2nd at Charlotte. He won. 1.5 mile track. He won. So, I mean, Ross Chastain for a top 5 on a track that he's good at and has been pretty okay at 1.5 miles earlier in the year. I'll take it.
man, with this punch analogy we've been throwing out, who's been on the Lane Riggs truck, like bare knuckle boxing or something? We should look into one of those sponsorships for next year, because it's not going away. I even have one of those for later in the show here. With Chastain, the only thing that worries me is a little bit of a playoff elimination hangover. I'll talk more about a bet where I'm kind of fading this one car later. But when you saw him get eliminated last year, wins Kansas. You saw him get eliminated in 2023. Maybe, I think he even missed the playoffs that year. Chastain goes out and wins the Phoenix race that would have won him the championship if he'd won it the year before. So I guess it's not something you really see, but I'm going to be ballsy enough to take it. TK saying Trackhouse seems to be trending upwards as well in qualifying and running decent overall. Good point. We're even to the point now where we're seeing SVG get top 10s on ovals. I don't have that bet, but I do have a couple other top 10s. And I've been on this, we'll call it a bad habit because the other two haven't hit, where I've parlayed together some placement props. I had Larson Bowman top 5, top 10 at Kansas. Didn't work out on the Bowman end. And I had, I think it was Bell and Briscoe at Loudon. Bell misses out on the top 5. Briscoe barely gets in the top 10. I'm just going to roll with top 10s. I'm going to drink some juice this week. And what we've seen here, I'm going to pick, of course, in the round of 8, you have 3 Hendrick, 3 Gibbs, 2 Penske. I'm going to parlay together the Gibbs and the Hendrick. And it's partly because round of 8 drivers at this point in the year, they're the class of the field at this stage of the season. We talked about it with a non-playoff driver has never won this race. You look at the stats last fall, 5 of the 8 in the top 11. Fall of 2023, all of the round of 8 drivers in the top 11. 5 in the top 13 in the fall of 2022 when we had a little more parity. I think that we're going to see these guys run exceedingly well. It's very reasonable to expect that one, if not both of these teams, can absolutely nail it across the board and put all of their playoff cars in the top 10. First off, with Hamlin, Bell, and Briscoe, the 11, 20, and 19, they ran 2, 3, 4 at Kansas. That's all in the top 10. In the model, 2nd, 5th, and 11th. So also pretty solid. And especially at that Kansas race a couple weeks ago, like I said, the class of the field, Hamlin leading a bunch of laps, Bell right up there. Briscoe ends up, like I said, getting a 4th place, even though it wasn't necessarily his best day there. And with Hendrick as well, the 5, the 9, and the 24, a little better number here. And this one might arguably have a better chance of happening. I think what drags it down is Chase Elliott, not a great average finish here. But Byron at Vegas, 6.3 average finish, just behind Chastain by a couple of spots there. Kyle Larson, 8.7 average finish at Vegas in the next gen. Kansas, 1st, 6th, and 9th for these guys. So all in the top 10 once again. In the model, 1st, 3rd, and 7th in the top 10 there. I don't know if they're both going to pull it off. That's why I have both numbers. But it feels like almost a lock to me. Like I said, the round of 8 drivers are going to run up front. You're not going to see those upsets. If you roll with a comp, I remember Homestead last year in that round of 8. You're looking at the top 10, and you have 7 of the 8 playoff drivers, if not all 8, running literally 1 through 7. The cream of the crop rises to the top. We're going to see that, and it's going to be the best that nail it. So why not make a little coin off of it, having the teams really sync together and run up front?
This is creative. I actually do like this a lot. Like you said, the only thing that scares me, though, is Chase Elliott. If you look at his average finishing on this track, it's not. He did have a 10th place in the spring, though, so that kind of makes you think that this is possible. So, yeah, absolutely.
Instead, then, yeah. I'm a little more confident in the Gibbs one then, yeah. I mean, if you look at, even though Chase Briscoe hasn't had the best ones here, Truex is in the top 5 in average finish here, so we know the 19 can run well.
Yeah, no, and again, both of these are really fun, and it's a fun sweat, too, because you're sweating 6 drivers in this instance.
Creative ways to make money. We need them at this time of year. One more top 10 that I've got. Brad Keselowski, plus 220 on Bet365. This is where I'm going back to if you're going to punch me X amount of times, it's probably going to come in and hit again. He had incidents at Kansas and Texas in the spring, but at the other 1.5 miles this year, average finish of 8th and the top 11 in all those races, including, I think it was the 9th in the Kansas fall race, able to work his way up there and get it done. In terms of Vegas, he's run pretty well. Top 13 in 3 of the last 4 here, 3 career wins here, and a pretty impressive run at the end of his Penske tenure here, or in the middle of it, where he was outside the top 10 for, it must have been 7 or 8 or 9 straight races. Didn't include it because it's not next gen and it's not with RFK. But Keselowski has been a top 10 machine. This is just as automatic of a bet for me on the last 1.5 miles of the year as Austin Green on the road courses has become. Because every time I bet at the last 3, 4, 5 tracks similar to this, I didn't tally the stat, but on ovals, I think it's now 9 of the last 13, 9 of the last 14, something like that. Keselowski's been in the top 10 very quietly, but very efficiently.
Yeah, and he's got that RFK team believing that they can actually be a top 10 car top 10 team, I suppose, each and every week. So, yeah, I mean, look, the veterans and, like you said, the cream of the crop rise, and Brad Keselowski's been that. Man, is he not in the playoff race? Sure, but that doesn't mean that he's not a playoff caliber driver just by his own merit. So, yeah, a top 10 doesn't feel like that high of a bar for Brad Keselowski. Plus, you got the dogs out there barking in agreement with that one.
Who let the dogs out, right? We love live television, folks. Let's move on to matchups here. Of course, Keselowski, my point that I was going to make was there's only 8 drivers in the playoffs. You got to have at least 2 that aren't going to be playoff drivers in the top 10. So let's just throw all the Gibbs in there, all the Hendrick in there, and then throw Keselowski in like 7th. Perfect day. Matchups, I've got 2, including this manufacturer run, Ford over Chevy at plus 160 on Bet365. Ford's won the last 2 races here, so this is automatically hit just because of that. It's another way to get in on believing the Penske magic, the Logano magic, even the Blaney. We haven't talked much about him, but he's fast everywhere as long as they don't blow a motor. This is also plausible even without a Ford win. Say Denny Hamlin goes out, dominates. Still easy to see the 12 or the 22 beating the HMS guys, even if a Toyota wins the race. Lots of ways this can hit. Felt like a really long number for me, even though your Chevys and your Toyotas are your betting favorites in terms of who could win these races, who has won these races recently. It's those blue ovals and those Mustangs.
Yeah, and I went so far as to give Chevy over Toyota anyways in the NASCAR gambling podcast because, like you said, Toyota has not won this race in a very long time. And over the last few races, it's been Chevy and Ford over Toyota. And, you know, like you said, the last couple of times it's been Ford over Chevy. And yeah, you got to like it at that price. And again, the only one that can, I think, really screw this over is Kyle Larson. And at that point, you just bet the Kyle Larson and you're happy either way.
Exactly right. And that's exactly what I did. So Ford over Chevy is pretty good. You have a Ford over a Chevy as your matchup of the week.
I sure do. I've got the man, the myth, the legend, Joey Logano over Chase Elliott. And we talked about Joey Logano at length earlier in the episode. And really just all of those stats hold firm to him. But when you look at Chase Elliott, it's just not necessarily been his most favorite track in the entire world, even in terms of finishing positions. He's 20th overall in terms of average finish on this track in the next gen era, 19.5 average finish. You got that 10th place in the spring, which makes you think, all right, Chase Elliott's back. But I'm telling you, the trends before that, 33rd before that in the fall of 2024, 12th in the spring, 32nd in the fall of 2023. So let's just say that the fall race has not necessarily been his favorite race on this. In 2022 in the fall, he finished 21st. Remember, he didn't race in the spring of 2023 because he was injured, but in 9th place in 2021 in the spring. Fall has not been his favorite. This hasn't been a favorite track, but fall has definitely not been his favorite race of it. And then, of course, Joey Logano, we talked about him earlier, winning a couple times, you know, having a great average finish here. And to me, this is just more of Joey Logano now knowing he's in a desperate position rather than Chase Elliott, who's in a desperate position himself, but you know, can points race a little bit to try to ease the pain of trying to go through the rest of the season or the rest of the playoffs and winning. But yeah, I just feel like this is more of Joey Logano knowing how to manipulate the playoffs and Elliott's bad luck in the fall here.
Yeah, and I agree with the trends there that Logano's looked a lot better. I feel like it would be silly to pencil in Chase Elliott to once again be that driver that has issues, because I'm sure there will be one of these round of 8 drivers at least that has some sort of issue that really sets him behind the 8 ball. But you're right, even if when Logano doesn't have the best car, he can oftentimes find ways to win. Even if the 9 doesn't have the best car, can still get some stage points, still run. You know, I only need him to finish 10th to hit the particular bet I have on him, as long as his teammates hold up their end of the bargain. But in terms of Elliott, it's just race a little bit on points. You can put yourself, he could, you know, plus 10 or plus 15 at a Talladega would be a great day, even without the win. When Logano, like we were talking about, absolutely has to sell out for the checkered flags. The only thing that I wonder maybe about Logano is maybe knowing how good Penske's been at Talladega. Maybe you don't sell the farm at Vegas, but no, this is a team. I'm talking myself out of it. Championships, champions, champion crew chiefs. They don't play the what if game. They don't play the we'll get them next week game. They play the we'll get them now game. So Logano over Elliott, maybe a bet I'll take as well. Heck, when I picked up your bets heading into Kansas, they worked out pretty well. So probably going to have to do the same. My other matchup, this is one that I said I'm kind of fading Chastain. I can understand it's kind of a homer pick. It's the pick that I'm kind of least confident in of the weekend, but I bring it up for the discussion as much as anything, including the paint scheme there. Love your mind, mental health. Bowman fans really need some mental health help after how the season's been for the 48. But in any case, plus 150, I like the number. Both drivers have really been among the best of the rest here in terms of not being in the playoffs right now, but still generally running well here. You talked about Chastain, best average finish here in the next gen at 5.4. Bowman not far behind in fifth at 11.5. Biggest difference is the kind of what we talked about with Logano and Chase. With Chastain, you haven't seen those asterisk marks. You haven't seen those issues. It's been top 10 after top 10, top 5, top finishes here for the one. When the 48, you've run into trouble. Going back to the spring here, Chastain, P5, Bowman, P7. 48, kind of an asterisk mark. They had a pit issue, had to race back up to 7th. You look at Kansas. Both of them ran around 9th to 15th much of the day. Average running position was kind of in that ballpark, especially mid-race. The one car, relatively incident-free day, finishes 11th. The 48 tries to Leroy Jenkins at around the top, around the 24 and the 88, and stuffs it in the wall. They end up finishing 28 there. Driver error maybe as much as anything there. In any case, all in all, I'm taking the plus money and almost some insurance on maybe we do see Chastain kicking into early vacation mode, have some sort of hangover after a really emotional day at the Roval. Or maybe it's one of those where it's Chastain's turn to have an asterisk mark, and you see that 48 hit it as well as the other Hendrick cars will. Like I said, though, least confident ones, I bring it up for the discussion, but one that at this number, I'm okay with.
And that's okay to have it too, because again, there's a very emotional, I don't think, Chastain in any of those situations has been through the emotion of getting cut from the playoffs the race before Las Vegas. So it could be that, obviously there's something to run for in Las Vegas for Ross Chastain. And that's why he's run as well as he has, or even to the point where, he's definitely out to prove something. Whereas now he knows that he's not in the next round. Now he had that disappointment, and maybe he does. Not to say that Ross Chastain's going to go out there and run any less than he is capable of running, but, maybe he doesn't make that blind Hail Melon move to try to get it because he knows that it's not going to make a difference either way for his season. So yeah, this is the one path I think that Bowman can have to beat Chastain.
All right. So to round out the Cup side, Rod, you're frequently on the specials market. I do have one this week too, but we'll start off with yours.
Yeah, this was a fun one. I don't know that I've seen this one on the NASCAR side of it, but I'm going to take drivers not completing 133 laps. The Caesars book over there has set this number at 1.5. I'm going to take the under, which means that there's going to be less than 2 cars. So that means 1 car finishing under 133 laps. If you look at the races in the next gen era, since 2023, rather, in the last couple of seasons, only once has more than one driver not finished 133 laps. It's not a stat that you tend to look at more often than not, but it's one that when you look at something like this, it's crazy. In the spring, every driver completed at least 133 laps. In the fall of 2024, that was the race in which, let's see, 4 drivers did not finish 133 laps, but that was a crash that took out Tyler Reddick, Brad Keselowski, and Austin Dillon. And then Chase Elliott had suspension problems, but he was still finishing that. And Austin Cindric was under DVP on that one. But in the spring of 2024, only 1 car finished only 27 laps, and that was Chris Buescher. 1 car did not finish, and that was Carson Hocevar in the 42 in 2023 in the fall. So, yeah, I mean, again, there's only been a couple of times over the course and not in the last couple of races that these drivers, Las Vegas is not known for its chaoticness, right? It's known for, and even if you do end up in an early kerfuffle, then you can get back out there and actually get yourself out there. So yeah, this race is not known for a gigantic amount, and it's not like for lack of cautions. It's just for lack of disabling vehicles. Because in the spring race, there was 9 cautions for 53 laps. And like we said, every driver finished 133 laps. So yeah, definitely a fun one to get in on. So minus 115 on Caesars for drivers not completing 133 laps under 1.5.
Yeah, and you mentioned too the DVP rules being different this year. Maybe some of those cars that crashed last fall could have been able to come back out and run some more laps there. And this bet is essentially goes down to, do you think that there's not going to be a problem with the modern day version of start and parks? The 44 Yaley, the 78 of Leg. Catherine Legg's been 48 times this year, unless they have a problem or get involved in an incident. I think they're probably good. And even Yaley in the 44, I mean, what was it? Richmond, they had Derek Kraus blow it up or something like that. But even that car generally is running more of the race than this. It's basically a bet on, do you think there's going to be a big crash early in this race or not? And of course, last fall, we see that Tyler Reddick goes and flips the son of a gun, and Keselowski gets in the wall too. But Vegas is not normally known for that chaos. You don't normally see a car flip over at Las Vegas and not be able to get in there and finish the race up. And 1.5 is a number where you're essentially betting on that. If it was a couple more, it's, do you have a big crash? Do you have some of these cars fall out of the race? Do you have Ryan Baney blow a motor again? Something like that. But this over-under at this number, I think this is a really, really good bet, even at the minus money.
Plus, it's fun.
Yeah, of course it is. So I was picking which number to win. I'm going with the even numbers to win this week. Yeah, plus 115 on Caesars. It's the plus money option for a reason. Don't get me wrong, but there's plenty of good potential here. I've been talking about the 22 all night. That's an even number. The 20 car, Joe Gibbs Racing. Also really believe in him, as does the whole comment section. So I feel good about that. Also gives you Ryan Baney and William Byron, the 12 and the 24. So you get half the round of 8. You get a coin flip. Where it fades, though, is those dark horses. You don't have as many of those on the even side. The ones I brought up, the 2, the 6, the 8, the 48, and the 60. And realistically, I don't know that I can see any of those winning the race. But you give me half the round of 8 to win when the round of 8 driver, playoff driver wins every time at Vegas at a plus money. It's a coin flip that I'll take.
Yeah, and I love this one as well because, like you said, there's just so many opportunities for a Joey Logano to sneak in there and do this. For Kyle Busch to end up accidentally winning on his home track, it's not going to happen.
Vegas, yeah, he'd love it.
Yep, absolutely. So love this one.
All right, so we got a couple Xfinity bets as well. We'll start off with you in the outright market. JRM driver, but not in a WeatherTech fire suit.
I'm telling you right now, Connor Zilisch, we just talked about it, not really as dominant on these mile and a halves as he's been on road courses and short courses. So give me Justin Allgaier plus 275. It's been him and Zilisch duking it out all season long. And I will say that Justin Allgaier has more top 5 finishes on this track than most of the active drivers have starts in their career. Justin Allgaier has 12 top 5 finishes on this track with a win, 19 top 10 finishes and 22 starts. He's going to be hovering around the top. Got to give Justin Allgaier the nod here. I know Connor Zilisch is the heavy favorite, but Connor Zilisch does not have a mile and a half win this season. So just keep that in mind.
That is a good point. I think there was one race where I think he and Allgaier were dueling. That might have been Nashville, though, which is notably not a mile and a half. So Allgaier, good pick here. Zilisch, of course, can race as if he's already locked in. Just don't crash the car. Obviously, he's going to want to win, but I do think Allgaier is a prudent pick here. And your Xfinity outright game has been good the last few weeks. I'm going to continue on the Brandon Jones train here, betting the top 5 at 2-1 over on Bet365. Here at Vegas, 2 top 5s, 12 career top 10s in his career. Even ran well here when he was not running well at all at Junior Motorsports, with a few top 10s there. In the spring here, finished P6, pretty solid. Comp tracks dominated and won at Kansas, of course. P9 at Texas, P7 at Homestead. Pretty solid at the comps, whether you think Vegas is going to be raced like itself or whether it's going to race differently. I still think this is close enough here. And I'm going big on him to continue to go big and really rise to that round of 8 occasion and really not lose out on anymore, because I only took the top 10 when you had the full car lift at Kansas. And man, that would have been fun to have been on any one of the top 3 of the top 5 that I was too chicken to take. You absolutely nailed it there. And that's definitely a good one. And I'm going to continue to roll on Jones here. Still not quite to the outright point, but I do think a top 5, very easy for this 20 car to really set themselves up well to go to the round 8 or to the round of 4.
Hammer this price. It will not stay this way after qualifying. I promise you.
Hey, it may already not be there. I mean, Bet365, people hammer them. Other books change it around. Maybe they end up a little different there. That's the show for the week, Rod. Always a pleasure to have you on. Best way to support you. Follow you on Twitter there at RJ Villagomez. And, of course, you and Cody do such a great job over there on the NASCAR Gambling Pod.
Absolutely. Yep. Just have some fun with us over the course of the week. And, of course, catch SoYouLikeSports.com, where I will be revamping things up with some Aussie Rules women football sooner rather than later.
Hey, all right. I didn't know they did women's Aussie Rules football. That rocks.
Absolutely. It's fun to watch.
I am looking forward to reading all about it, especially since the NASCAR season is winding down. Just 4 races left. I'm running out of time to make money, but we are hopping on it and hoping to take a good ride into the offseason here. Check out everything we got going on at in-betweenmedia.com. All the links to all the fun stuff we do down in the description. Thanks for watching the Backroad this week. We will see you next time. Catch you later.